This past Sunday we talked about do not judge, which is this modern motto that actually comes straight from the mouth of Jesus. He tells us, do not judge. And it's become this thing that people in our culture make this absolute central part of who they understand Jesus to be and what he taught. Like, don't be judgmental, be tolerant, be inclusive. And they look at Christians and they say, well, you guys haven't done it. You haven't actually lived up to what Jesus said. And you know what? They're right. We haven't. We've been guilty of this. We make a big deal of some other things that Jesus said, and this thing we're kind of a little uncomfortable with. The truth is, we do often judge. For example, if I were to walk into this pub, this bar right behind me right now, some of you would say, whoa, that is not okay for a Christian to do. Well, at the same time, you've got all kinds of other issues in your life. And so what do we do with this is kind of the big question. Now, of course, the Bible does tell us that we need to be holding each other accountable, that we need to be spurring one another on, encouraging one another, that there's even a place for church discipline. But it also tells us that we've got to be humble, we've got to be soft-hearted, we've got to be people who confess and admit that we actually get it wrong and that we are only saved by grace. Self-righteousness is just as bad and just as anti-gospel as is total, sinful, wicked rebellion or whatever. They're both kind of outside of what God wants from us. God says that we are so bad that he had to die for us, and yet he loved us so much that he was glad to do that. That's the good news of the gospel, that we deserved judgment, and yet Jesus took that for us, and now we are saved by grace. We can't judge others, we can't condemn others, because we know that we were condemned apart from the grace of God. So my one big question for you this week is this: what's the relationship between judging and correcting, between judgmentalism and keeping people accountable? What's the relationship between those two things?